The minister has been embarking on his justice drive. We've seen him pay visits to a number of correctional facilities across the country. And today he's paid a visit to Legal Aid South Africa here in Johannesburg. And we've seen and we've heard him before in his budget vote mentioning that Legal Aid continues to give sterling work for indigent South Africans. Also, we've seen him take a number of calls, in fact, really introducing himself as Ronald Lamola, and as not someone else. But he's quite impressed with the service that is currently being offered, saying that there's a lot that's not known about legal aid and quite a number of cases that they've handled. But to talk us through some of the issues that came out and the challenges that Legal Aid South Africa experiences, I've got the CEO, Vidu Vedarankar. Thank you very much for your time this morning. The Minister spoke at length about the sterling work that Legal Aid South Africa does. But in terms of access, let's start there perhaps. In terms of access, a lot of people are able to call and make calls through your toll-free number. But looking at people that are deaf, how do those people who are indigent access legal aid?
Okay, so we provide a range of services and we try and respond to all needs so that we can increase access, and we do that by offering advice on our legal aid advice line in all 11 official languages. And if there's any other language, we also try and then link into any other interpretation service that we can, so that we can then still assist. In the case of sign language, what we would have is that people are able to write in and send an SMS or an email to us, and then we will respond on that basis to them in terms of providing the legal advice.
But for someone who does not know, what kind of services do you provide?
Okay. And Legal Aid South Africa exists in terms of providing and fulfilling our constitutional mandate, which is that we need to provide legal services to poor and vulnerable persons, especially those who need our service and can't afford a lawyer. And that is the main reason we exist. We do that through providing assistance in criminal matters as well as in civil matters. Over the past few years, we've assisted over 750,000 people per annum in terms of legal advice provided by qualified legal practitioners, as well as legal advice. One of the ways in which we do it is through the advice line, but at every office we have, which is 128 across the country, clients are able to come and meet face-to-face with either our paralegals or our legal practitioners and get advice. So we're providing assistance in criminal matters and in civil matters. In criminal matters, we are also represented at every criminal court in the country, so that if anybody needs assistance, they will get assistance from legal aid. There's no reason for any poor person to go through the criminal justice system unrepresented, because we will provide legal assistance through our lawyers.
You're quite confident about the service that Legal Aid offers, and that cannot be said about South Africans generally. What do you think is behind all of this? Do you think that South Africans are not aware about the kinds of services and the kind of work that you've done before, or it's just a matter of not making it public enough and reaching those indigent people?
Yes, I think we are reaching more and more people, and we are, for example, advertising our services. We're providing legal services on many of the African language stations across the country. In that way, we're reaching more people. But I think there's always a gap, and then in that way, we try to plug that gap in several ways, by advertising, also having those programs, as I said, but also going to rural areas and having outreach programs. And we do that both in terms of advertising, but also in terms of like mobile clinics, where our paralegals and legal practitioners actually go to different points at which people gather, for example, pension payout points or at shopping centers, etc., and set up a clinic there and assist people. And when they need legal assistance from a legal practitioner, link them to our offices. So in that way, we're trying to reach more and more people. As our advertising budget would be limited, as you would know, because we want to get more services out to clients by actually providing lawyers and paralegals. But in that way, we still try and use every opportunity we can to reach people.
But there's also the issue of budget cuts and other issues that are plaguing legal aid on its own, and the staff and perhaps services that you render. How are you going to address such issues, and how does it affect the services that you provide when we speak about something like budget cuts? Because I understand that you also access services from private attorneys and lawyers.
Yes, I think that budget cuts is a reality for South Africa in our in our climate where financial issues are a big issue for government. So it's not only us, it's all government departments. And as legal aid, the way in which we look at responding to budget cuts is by balancing the cut in terms of the kinds of efficiencies we can introduce more and more, and we continue to do that, although we run a fairly efficient service. And also by looking at how we can match supply and demand in a stronger way. And especially in criminal courts, as an example, we will continue to have presence there, and we will assist. And in the case of civil matters, what we will do is see how we can focus and prioritize constitutional rights-based matters, so that at least those which have higher impact on clients' lives, we assist them. Where we can't assist, we're also linking them to pro bono services as well as services that our justice partners offer. And in that way, we're trying to keep the gap closed. But I think that we all looking to work together to see how we can address this very serious challenge.
All right, thank you very much. That was the CEO of Legal Aid, Mpho Vidalanker, really clearly indicating, or rather mapping out the services that are currently being offered by Legal Aid South Africa, and ensuring that she speaks to issues of budget cuts that affect the services that they render. Of course, indigent people being able to access the services, but first through a means test which establishes whether you can or cannot afford legal services that are currently being offered.